Hey there everybody, it's Alex here from VG247.com and I'm here with Battlefield 5, the new Rotterdam map, and it's running on the Nvidia GeForce RTX 2080 Ti graphics card, complete with the ray tracing technology that Nvidia is making such a big deal about. So don't expect the best gameplay from this video, but I did want to do a video just sort of looking at this game running this way, 1080p 60 with the ray tracing tech, to talk about if the ray tracing tech is worthwhile and what it does and what a difference it makes. And you can already see, if you look at the reflections on the gun, if you look at the reflections on this room with the nice shiny floor, and you can see the impact of ray tracing. They're using a clever mix here of ray tracing and pre-baked stuff to make an impact. So if you take a look at this footage here, you can see the reflection of these items, and also, more importantly, the reflection of the players in this shiny polished floor that react in real time as the players move around. Ray tracing in general leads to these really vivid, strong reflections, and I think one of the things that people were saying after the ray tracing announcement was that everything looked a bit wet, a bit watery, and I do think that is an issue, not necessarily a problem, but I do think that's a teething thing with this technology as it's brand new. But there is definitely such a higher quality of reflection shown throughout this footage, in my opinion. The thing that I'd advise you to look at here is look at the puddles and look at the way light and reflections change and move as you move around. They do that in a really realistic way that just isn't accomplished with the current mapping that's used for things like reflections in games. Now, in real terms, this is really a visual bonus. However, I did have a chat with some of the developers at DICE, and they were saying, the guys who had implemented this, that as this technology becomes more common, it may well be the case that they have to start considering map design and just how a map's designed, because you might have somebody seeing reflections giving them an advantage. So here I am slowing down the footage again, and as you can see, just look in the side of the train car, you've got, because it's a shiny material, you've got the reflection of the building opposite. And again, in previous versions of Battlefield and without this ray tracing technology, what you would have there instead would be a normal map which would be of the building, and it wouldn't reflect real time, whereas if there was somebody in the window of that building, you'd see it. If that building had been partially destroyed by Battlefield's destruction tech, you'd see it. And that's sort of how this ray tracing tech really has an impact. It's on these real-time reflections that reflect absolutely everything around you and everything that's going on in the map. It's really, really cool. Do I think it is technology that is going to really provide a meaningful advantage to anyone? Probably not, no. Do I think it's actually really cool for somebody who cares about realism? Yes. Now, the flip side of this, and it's a really important thing to note, is that you are going to have to make some sacrifices in line with this. So, for instance, this footage is running at 1080p, not 4K. It is 1080 60, but 4K is not going to happen with this ray tracing tech, I don't think. I mean, so, to be clear, I've only used this card at an Nvidia controlled event, and, you know, with Nvidia and DICE employees all around me, and I couldn't turn ray tracing off. And one thing I will say is, stick around on the channel, give us a like, give us a subscribe, because once we get the final cards, which we should be getting our hands on the 2080 and the 2080 Ti pretty soon now, once we get our hands on the final cards, I'm going to run an absolute shed load of tests going over all sorts of stuff, just looking at exactly how well the ray tracing does on all maps, not just this one, but also then how ray tracing impacts frame rate and performance, and how the 2080 Ti performs without ray tracing, trying to run the game at 4K, how it runs at 1080 with ray tracing, how it runs at 4K with ray tracing. So we will try and get a really good idea of exactly how this affects things. Now, the thing that I would say is, this was definitely the best ray tracing demo I saw at the Nvidia GeForce GTX RTX 2080 reveal. There's a Tomb Raider demo as well that I played, but I didn't feel like it was a good area to show off exactly how good the tech is. In fact, I'd actually say, worth pointing out, that Tomb Raider demo is on the channel, and I'll link it at the end of this video, but they did do a stage demo of a different area of the game, and that uses ray tracing in a different way. Whereas in Battlefield, it's all about reflections and lighting. There, it's all about lighting and shadows and how shadows are cast and making more realistic looking shadows. And so you see, that's the other interesting thing about this technology, is that you've actually got lots of different options for how you can deploy it. And we saw multiple games, Metro, Exodus as well. That was a game that was deploying it in really interesting ways in terms of getting more natural light coverage. And there you go, there's 3 games, 3 examples. You've got Battlefield with the reflections, Tomb Raider with shadows, and Metro with actual lighting. And so there's different ways this tech can be deployed, but I do think the Battlefield one was the one that immediately impressed me the most. I mean, just look at these puddles and how stuff is reflected in them. It's just a real visual step, and it's the sort of thing where actually, it's weird, I didn't realise how uncanny puddles and stuff could look in games, how off and weird they could look in games, until I saw this. And then I was like, oh wow, it really is a huge difference once you see the ray tracing in action. But I think it's going to be a really interesting debate over the coming weeks, just about, you know, once these cards launch, if this is a worthy trade-off for the frame rate and for the resolution. Because I guess it's going to be resolution more than frame rate. Like, even with ray tracing, it doesn't seem like these cards are going to struggle to hit 60 as long as you're at 1080. But as soon as you're starting to talk about 120 Hz or 4K, then that's going to be interesting to see how the performance holds up, because everything we were shown at the reveal was 1080p 60, or trying for 1080p 60 in Tomb Raider's case, because the frame rate was a little bit iffy on that one. As for Battlefield 5, I think it looks and feels bloody awesome. This is not good gameplay because there's the weird aspect of I'm trying, as everyone's playing, some people are focused on playing seriously, YouTubers mostly, and some people are just sort of running around trying to get a good look at how the game looks with the ray tracing. So there's not great gunplay here, and I apologise for that. Look forward to perhaps some more Battlefield videos where I'm actually playing seriously when we get the beta in a couple of days. But just looking at this footage, and I'm going to let some more footage run with the ray tracing, I was really, really impressed. After sitting through really lengthy press conferences and going like, oh, bloody hell, this is a lot of information, a lot of specs, a lot of numbers, a lot of graphs that sometimes are entirely accurate, sometimes are probably taking liberties just a little bit. It was really nice to sit down and play something and actually be really pleasantly surprised and really shocked by just how cool this tech is. And this is a very, very first implementation. This is one of the things where I got to have a chat to the guy at DICE that was in charge of all this stuff, and he basically said to me, all of this is a super early iteration of this ray tracing tech, and it's only going to get better. This is them just trying to implement it into Frostbite with as little impact on the engine as possible. But even so, that this isn't a tech demo. This is going to ship in the final game too. So if you've got a 2080 series card, or an RTX series card I should say, you're going to be able to use this tech, which is really, really welcome and really, really cool. So yeah, that's ray tracing tech. I'm going to let this footage run a little bit more so you can just continue to look at it and see what you think of it, and pause it and examine it to your heart's content. But I think that's me done nattering over it. As I said earlier, don't forget to give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you stick around, we've got plenty more to come on both Battlefield 5, but also on the RTX series graphics cards. We're going to be getting those off Nvidia pretty soon, and we'll be doing all the stuff you would expect. We'll do an unboxing of the 2080 Ti, we'll do some benchmarks, some tests, and just see exactly how good they are and how well they run. So yeah, that's that for now. So until next time, everyone, see ya. Enjoy the rest of the footage.
Soldiers, we have lost objective Baker. Get moving! We have taken objective easy. Objective dog is now ours, soldiers.